Hi everyone, Fritz here. Do you hate all the plastic pieces that BMW uses in their cars for the price that they make you pay for it? Well, in today's video, we're going to be switching out the plastic turbo inlet pipe for a metal one. Let's get into the video. So as I said in the beginning, I hate all the plastic pieces that BMW uses. So much in fact that I want to replace all of them. And that's exactly why I switched out the charge pipe and the intercooler for full metal versions. And the turbo inlet pipe actually falls into that same category. It's a plastic piece. But more importantly than that, I actually broke mine when I was installing an oil catch can. There is actually a piece of tubing that attaches to the turbo inlet pipe with a torque screw. I missed the alignment on the torque screw, screwed it in, and cracked this portion. The other thing that I didn't realize until I actually removed this pipe is that the 10mm bolt, which goes through this hanger here, it's actually cracked. So this wasn't holding in place at all. On top of that is the diameter here, it actually shrinks down. If we compare that to the Burger Motorsports turbo inlet pipe, it's actually wider. And this actually has a consistent 3-inch diameter all the way down. So it doesn't widen out at the top here, and then once the air comes down, it shrinks down. It's a 3-inch consistent diameter all the way around. Now, as far as our kit from Burger Motorsports, sorry to interrupt the video, but in good conscience, I cannot recommend this product as of today. And the reason why is because this silicone coupler does not work. It will not fit on your stock air intake. If you want to get an additional adapter, or Burger Motorsports, if you're listening, the 3 inch is fine for around here, but this should be about 3 1/4 or 3 1/2 even works. The other thing is that if you look closely at this end, which feeds into the turbo, so right next to my finger, you're gonna see some scratches next to this pipe. And that's because when I was installing it, there is actually a bolt on the OEM turbo inlet pipe. So there's a little flange here, a bolt goes through it, and then you tighten it down with a nut. Because we don't have that here and this weld is a little bit too thick, it rubs up against it and causes that to scratch and prevents us from going the last bit, say from this last inner O-ring to the pipe itself. We're unable to close that distance. So as of right now, this does not fit because of that configuration. So if Burger Motorsports, if you're listening, maybe you should shave down this part right here, or if you could even include a flange, something like that, to make sure that we clear that bolt. But as of right now, this will not fit. But hopefully you're watching this sometime in the future and Burger Motorsports has already fixed these issues. And if you really want an aluminum turbo inlet pipe that's 3 inches in diameter all the way through, this is an excellent option. Again, there's only a few things: fixing the silicone and then maybe making a little wedge right here or sanding this portion down. Not a big deal. Burger Motorsports is a good company and I'm sure that they'll make those changes along the way. So with that, we're gonna walk through the steps of installing this turbo inlet pipe, even though I couldn't do it with mine. So just imagine that we were able to close this gap and that the silicone coupler did work. So let's get back into the video. Everything that you see that I'm holding here is included in the kit. You have your aluminum turbo inlet pipe with a silicone coupler, a hose clamp, and then they included a Phillips head screwdriver here. But because of my incident that I had, I switched it out for a hex screw to avoid that same problem that I had with the T20 torque screw. Because it's easier to actually get a socket wrench around something like this, this is actually a machined 7mm hex screw that I use instead. But if you feel more comfortable with the Phillips head screwdriver, you can go ahead and use that. So I'll include that in the description below. But as you can see here, there's nothing to hold it in place. Even when we get down to the turbo itself, there's no nut that we have to insert here to hold it in place. And Burger Motorsports actually assured me that it's going to stay in place. They've done the R&D for a year now, and it's held up perfectly fine. Now with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the video. Now with the hood open, it's actually easier to do this install by removing the top of the air intake. So just use a 6mm socket wrench in order to loosen up the clamp here. Pop the intake out of this grommet, undo the 4 clips that hold in the air box, and be careful because they can slip out of place. So the air intake, you don't have to really take out. You have enough leeway on this wire to simply fold it on top of the engine cover. Now following our turbo inlet, we can see right where the PCV hose attaches to it. You can see that our hose, our silicone hose for our oil catch can, is right there. And just above where our hose clamp is a 10mm bolt that we have to undo in order to release the top portion of the turbo inlet. Take a box wrench that will ratchet for you. Now just keep going until the nut comes out. And because this bolt is a little long, once it gets to a certain point, you'll have to actually use your hand to take it out. It is a little bit of a tight fit, but just go ahead and squeeze your hand in there and then undo it by hand. And now it's time for us to lift the car and remove the under panel. And for that, we are going to use an 8mm socket. If you don't know where the center jack point is of the car, just go ahead and click on the video link in the top right-hand corner. Now for point of reference, if you follow your lower control arm into where the engine bay feeds in, you're gonna see this hose with a little bit of a bend to it. And we're going to zoom in. And right there, that 10mm nut is what's holding the flange to the plastic turbo inlet pipe, and the silver partition on the left side of it, that is actually the turbo. So we're just gonna use a wrench to take that nut off. Now before we remove the actual turbo inlet pipe, we have to disconnect that PVC connection here. And if you're wondering why I'm not using a T20 to break it out, it's because I broke it when we were doing our oil catch can. So it's only held in there by the O-ring. So I'm just gonna slide that out now. But if you didn't, you can go ahead and check out this video right over here in order to see how you can undo that PVC tube really easily. But now we can start wiggling out the turbo inlet and all of its plastic glory. And this is our broken PVC screw. And then that 10mm bolt that we pulled out, it came out. Somehow this thing broke already. It's bent over here on the side. Wow, this is, well, I guess this is what our money gets us in a BMW sports car. But I guess the 2 Series is the entry level, so what can you do? Because there is no nut that's going to hold this in place, what I'm going to do here is use some high heat grease around the O-rings, because the engine bay does get hot and we don't want these O-rings to start to crack and lose their grip over time. So high heat grease is just a little bit thicker and can hold up a little bit better to temperatures over a longer period of time than regular motor oil. But if that's all that you have laying around, that's perfectly fine. Now let's go ahead and install our aluminum turbo inlet pipe. So for this part, you just have to wiggle in the turbo inlet pipe, twist it side to side as you're pushing it, and I will admit it is a whole lot easier when you have somebody on the top as you guide it in from the bottom. Now when we get this far in, what we can do is connect that PVC connection into its housing. And it is a little tight in there, but don't forget to put back in your screw that holds in that sensor. And then next you have to put on the silicone coupler. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Of course you would put your hose clamps on so that you can secure it once it's all in place. But when you put the factory air box back in, it doesn't line up, it won't fit. It's actually too small. Unless they fix this, this is a huge, huge no-no. Luckily though for me, I was able to find a silicone coupler at my local auto parts store. And it's a 3 that feeds into the top portion here to a 3.5 which feeds up to here. Now we can tighten down the one for air intake, and that's not going anywhere. And then snug back in the 4 clips that hold in the air box. And now we can close the hood. Now to finish it up, all that you have to do is reinstall the under panel, jack up the car to remove the jack stands, and bring it down. And just like that, you finished installing the Burger Motorsports turbo inlet pipe. And hopefully you're doing this in the future when they've made the corrections to the silicone coupler so that it can fit the stock air intake, and then also that it doesn't interfere or get interfered with the bolt at the bottom of the turbo. Now, if you're wondering if Burger Motorsports have made these changes. Pay attention to the description or the first pinned comment. I'm going to update that as soon as I know that it's been updated and fixed. I will put it there, but as of right now and until those changes happen, it's still the one that gave me these problems today. And actually, I'm in the process of buying another turbo inlet pipe so that it can fit and my car can be up and running again. And if you have any additional questions, leave it for me in the comment section below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.